What's up, Nowstalgia? Dave here with a review of Tomorrow Together's 8th EP, 7th year, A Moment of Stillness in the Thorns. If TXT are consistent at anything, it is very long-winded and conceptual titles for their musical projects. Of course, this is the first release since TXT have officially renewed their contracts with Big Hit Music and HYBE, thus marking TXT as elder statesman, veteran in the male K-pop group space, and especially over at HYBE, TXT has been one of the standard bearers in the absence of BTS the last few years. After renewing their contracts with little fanfare or controversy, Tomorrow Together are back with their 8th EP, 7th year. And like the majority of recent TXT music, this is pretty short and to the point. I think the biggest takeaway with this new EP, TXT are foregoing the fictional, more conceptual framing and lyrics behind a lot of their music and actually bringing something more personal to the table and reflecting on the whirlwind 7 years they've had thus far as a successful group. Musically, I think most of this is fine to good versus great. The production is always pleasant, the singing is always nice and on key, but the music isn't trying to be anything more than that, and that lack of ambition might not be as interesting to everyone. If you're a longtime TXT fan, this will sound like most of their recent material, and lead single Stick With You can certainly fit into a playlist. I think the decision to forego the fictional storytelling and get more personal would have landed a bit harder if the music was just there to back it up, but it kind of sounds like a lot of business as usual here. The first track, Bed of Thorns, I think the synth line is very nice there with the snares, definitely a groovy tempo for sure. The chorus though, it's just okay. I think it holds the song back, even if I like the second half of it better. Stick With You, this is the lead single here. I think the bass is very nice, very funky for sure. Pre-chorus is quite catchy. This is the best part of the song, easily. The keys on the chorus, they sound a little bit out of place to me, and the post-chorus moment, it's a bit plain. I think for like a lead single here, I would have wanted this to just pop just a little bit more than it ends up doing. Taking Me to Nirvana, this is a drum and bass track, which is certainly inspired production. There's a noticeable dance break for sure. Bit slight lyrics wise. So What has a nice group vocal harmony on the chorus, but that chorus does get a bit repetitive after a while. The funky beat though is returned and is pleasant to be with for sure. Random rap verse is here on this track. I think it flows well, fits the beat well, but sounds a little bit out of place compared to the rest of the EP. But the drums, I think they're just lively enough to keep So What going as a song. 21st Century Romance, it's more ballady leaning in terms of sentiment, but not necessarily in terms of production. To me, this song is a bit too slight. I think the singing is very pleasant on the chorus. It fits nicely over the drums and synths. There's just a lot of space in this song. It just feels and sounds slight, feels, not quite fully formed to me. And the closer, Dream of Mine, beats a bit more lively there. Are any of these songs approaching my favorite TXT songs? No. Does this get the job done, I guess, for the faithful fans, I suppose? But like a lot of K-pop EPs, they go so quickly. This is 16 minutes. It's not a lot of music that it's hard to really boil down an artistic statement with something like this. So TXT back, they're chugging along, into their second act here, which is cool, which is welcome, good for them. I'm curious where they're gonna feel like they stand in the post BTS return over at HYBE. I feel like to me TXT, even though they're the next oldest big active group over at HYBE at this point after BTS, I do feel like they've kind of been surpassed in terms of priority, at least by ENHYPEN at this point. They're still successful, they're still popular, but TXT has not really been hitting the same in the United States. You can see that in the commercial performance. They're definitely a much more popular, significantly more popular group in Korea and Japan than they are in the States. Don't really think that's going to change, if it didn't really happen during the BTS hiatus. How could it happen after they've returned? But that's okay. They're still successful in their own right. Let me know what you think of TXT's 8th EP, 7th year. And for more K-pop reviews, more music reviews, subscribe. And I'll see you next time.